What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and welcome to today's video where we are going to be previewing the Philadelphia Eagles' second week matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. Good news is pretty much every time Philly plays in Tampa, there is a bunch of Eagle fans there. Maybe there'll be a little bit more Bucs fans given the circumstances that they had a huge victory over the New Orleans Saints, a team that many assume would be Super Bowl contenders. They beat, 48 points on them. Ryan Fitzpatrick sprinkled in some Fitzmagic and had one hell of a game. And maybe there's a quarterback controversy, a brewing in there in Tampa Bay, because let's be honest, there's no chance in hell Jameis Winston would have put up that kind of game. But I digress. We're going to be doing the preview, man. And for those of you that actually watched the preview last week for the Atlanta game, we were pretty much dead on. I kind of usually end up predicting like a game script, how the game's going to go. I was at least 80% correct about every single thing that was happening in that Eagles-Falcons game. The best thing was, the one thing I was wrong about was Philadelphia losing. I had the Eagles losing that game. And we are here this week. Hopefully it's not the inverse. We will find out what my game prediction is at the very end. But we're going to jump through 10 things that you need to know. 10 battles, 10 matchups, 10 talking points for this Eagles-Bucs matchup. So starting at number 10, Doug Peterson has come out and said Nick Foles will be starting at quarterback, which is pretty much expected for everyone. And hey, let's be honest, Nick Foles had ups and downs, looked much better in the second half than he did in the first half, which is pretty much what I predicted because this offense coming in from the preseason, which is only the reps they had in live game action, had zero chemistry. It took them a while, took them pretty much 2.5 quarters to get that chemistry. Plus, he had the rain delay and a bunch of other things messing up with it. But Nick Foles was all right. He was all right. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't great. When you look at Nick Foles starting against the Bucs in his career, he has 600 passing yards, 7 total touchdowns to no interceptions. I mean, that's a kind of it's a stat that's been thrown around right now on social media a lot. That doesn't really matter. That's not really the defense that he's going up against. But more so, it's a team that he has had. I mean, maybe it's a mental thing that this is a team that he has had success for. So maybe that'll help his confidence a little bit. But with Nick Foles at quarterback, I still feel like Philly's going to have the advantage, and we'll go through other reasons why I think that's the case. Before we do that, though, we got to talk about point number 9. Is Carson Wentz going to be back for week 3? That's kind of a report right now. Doug Peterson's very unhappy at the Eagles press conference that someone keeps leaking this information. Apparently, it's team sources, so maybe there's multiple people. Through some Eagles beat reports and stuff like that, they did a deep dive thinking it was maybe Jordan Hicks that spilled the beans that Nick Foles was starting week 1. I haven't really seen anything confirmed about that or not. But for Carson Wentz, for me, I've always said week 4. I think Carson Wentz would be coming back week 4 against Tennessee because I think with Nick Foles at the helm, you should feel confident that we have at least good chances to beat Tampa Bay week 2 and the Colts week 3. Those are 2 of the easiest games on our schedule. Why rush Carson Wentz back? But on the other hand, if he's ready to play, I don't see the point of having him stay out of that Colts game because that Colts game, I mean, the Colts aren't hot trash, but they're also not one of the stronger teams, especially from a pass rush standpoint. So why not get Carson Wentz in there if he's ready to go and maybe get some confidence against a weaker opponent so that once we play, maybe a playoff contender team like the Titans or a playoff contender team like the Vikings, that he already has a couple games under his belt, some live in-game snaps. So that's at least something to keep an eye on. Back week 3 for Carson Wentz. I hope so because, our offense definitely would look a lot better with Carson Wentz under the helm than Nick Foles. But again, just go with the side of caution. Don't rush him in. Goal number 8. Bucs have 3 injuries going to this game, maybe 4. So you look at their secondary, Vernon Hargreaves from Florida, who's been up and down, inconsistent, but still at times can give you valuable minutes as a starter. He's gone on IR. Brent Grimes has a groin injury. His likelihood to play against the Eagles is, I think they said it's like questionable. It's not looking too good. You have Jason Pierre-Paul has like a ginked up leg or something like that. He's questionable. And beat reporter for the Bucs said that Deshaun Jackson's concussion, he's probably going to miss this week. And this is Deshaun Jackson last week against the Saints. 5 catches, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. Plus, Deshaun Jackson always has kind of that thing about like he wants to always prove himself against Philly. You saw it when he was at Washington. So, I mean, that was always going to be a talking point in this game. Even if Deshaun didn't go off against the Saints, would be Deshaun Jackson always tries to have big games against the Eagles, maybe more so than other opponents. But the fact that they are missing all those guys, especially in the secondary, they'll be going to probably rookie Carlton Davis out of Auburn. I mean, that's a good mismatch up for the Eagles, considering that our wide receivers aren't the strength of this team right now. Definitely not the strength of this offense. So the fact that we're going up maybe against lesser competition could even the playing field a little bit because, let's be honest, wide receivers didn't get any separation against the Atlanta Falcons. Pretty much all the catches were Nelson Aguilar doing his best Jarvis Landry impression. So that definitely helps us out. And the Eagles currently aren't going to be missing anyone else. And we're getting Nigel Bradden back after that 1-game suspension. Now, Nate Gary and Camus did great jobs. Those guys are guys that are clearly depth guys, clearly special teamers. But the fact that that game against Atlanta gave us confidence that if one of our linebackers goes down, and let's be honest, Jordan Hicks, until proven otherwise, is injury prone, I feel comfortable with those guys coming in and not being a liability. But having Jordan Hicks, having Nigel Bradden out there, both of, debatably the leaders of our defense, is going to be a big get for the Philadelphia Eagles. Go to number 7. His defensive tackle, Gerald McCoy in the Bucs, is technically the kind of D-tackle that Jason Kelce and some of the guys in the interior have struggled against. The power guys, the guys that are very, very well-rounded, but more so use power in their game, less finesse. That's where Jason Kelce, undersized center. Wiz is a little bit of an undersized guard. That's where those guys can get pushed around. So if I had to look at an area, if you will, that kind of scares me at the line of scrimmage, it would be Gerald McCoy against Jason Kelce. But going into point 6, the Philadelphia Eagles still should dominate the line of scrimmage in this game. Last week, New Orleans Saints had 0 sacks versus the Bucs, which is a big reason why Ryan Fitzpatrick was able to have the game he did, because he was pretty much never got pressured. And when he did get pressured, though, he did scramble. And he's not scrambling like a good athlete. Ryan Fitzpatrick's scrambling like, he doesn't care if he gets hurt. He doesn't care if he gets a concussion. This is pretty much his last hurrah. He's playing any given Sunday, which is what that's kind of like the talk that Jameis Winston has, but doesn't actually walk the walk about it. You know what I'm saying? Jameis Winston's the kind of guy that'll rah, let's play till we die kind of thing. And then when he plays in the game, he'll just get a bunch of illegal grounding and stuff like that in the pocket because he doesn't want to get hit. Versus a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick that will straight up try to truck. I would hesitate to guess that we saw in the Falcons game, I believe it was a Tevin Coleman screen pass, and Fletcher Cox read it 100%, and Tevin Coleman was trying to beat Fletcher Cox out in space. Cox was mirroring him, and I made a tweet I think he just pooped himself. That is 100%. If you put Ryan Fitzpatrick in that scenario, he was going to try and truck over Fletcher Cox. He's insane. He's a madman. So I would say that's something I would actually worry about the Eagles. Is I don't think they'll underestimate it. The fact that we got Hicks and Bradden back there should be nice for one of those guys just in their back pocket to spy Ryan Fitzpatrick. But Ryan Fitzpatrick has that maybe Kirk Cousins mobility that sometimes caused the Eagles trouble when the Eagles would play the Redskins. Kirk Cousins not known as a scrambler, but for every game against the Eagles, Kirk Cousins would go for 40, 50 yards and get a bunch of 3rd and long conversions with his legs. I could see that maybe being an outlet here for the Bucs offense, but I definitely, you're not going to see 0 sacks against that really, really average to shit Bucs offensive line with this Eagles D-line heating them up. And there's no chance in hell Peyton Barber gets more than 50 yards. If you are more of a power back between the tackle runner, you are not going to do good against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are going to struggle against the guys that primarily bounce to the outside. That's pretty much the outside contain. That's what happens with the wide 9, man. If you get outside that wide 9 and you get to that second level, that's where you can get some yards against Philly. But running up the middle, good luck. Going to number 5, the last of, kind of pumping up the Bucs, is Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, if they are going without Deshaun Jackson, are still pretty damn good. I assume from Jim Schwartz's press conference, he says the way you stop Mike Evans is be physical, which pretty much says they're going to stick Jalen Mills on him. And Jalen Mills did not have the best of games against the Atlanta Falcons. I had a couple good moments, had a couple bad moments. Always was going to struggle against Julio Jones, so it could get a little ugly from that standpoint because Mike Evans is an absolute stud. But here's hoping that, Darby gets some action. Darby is the kind of guy, maybe not, can match Mike Evans from a height, weight, speed standpoint, but definitely from a speed standpoint. But when we put Darby on Julio Jones, I actually think Darby got the better of Julio Jones. It was kind of a give and take. Obviously, you're not going to completely shut out Julio, but Darby did a really, really good job. So I don't know. Maybe you want to try to find a way to get him to cover Mike Evans. I don't know. But if Darby goes on Chris Godwin is definitely a weapon that will need to elevate his game in the absence of Deshaun Jackson. And if it is one of those things where Mills on Mike Evans and Darby's on Godwin, I actually like that advantage to the Philadelphia Eagles for Darby to shut down Godwin and not give Ryan Fitzpatrick those easy passes. Plus, as I stated, with Hicks and Bradden back, that's good because the Bucs love to use their tight ends, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate. So those guys are pretty well and established as one of the better two-headed tight end attacks. I'm glad that we have them linebackers back. And the last thing talking about the secondary is, can Darby have another huge week? Ultimately, when all is said and done, rating Darby's performance against the Atlanta Falcons, it was amazing for what he does. But the problem with Darby has been consistency. He'll have a big week, he'll have a down week. He'll have a big week, he'll have a down week. He'll have 2 big weeks, he'll have 3 down weeks. I want to see that consistency. Hopefully he can have another big game here against Tampa Bay. Go number 4 is Doug Peterson says he wants to make J.J. a little bit more of a bell cow against the Atlanta Falcons. He had 15 carries, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaging 4.1 yards per carry. You had Corey Clement get the other majority of the touches with Darren Sproles, and Clement averaged like 5.2 yards per carry. In general, though, for Ajay, I think he should be the bell cow, and I already can see myself screaming at the TV with Deuce Staley's ridiculous running back rotations throughout this game. But yeah, Ajay should be the starter. He looked the best out of all the running backs. And in general, like I said, we just need more balance to the offense. Philadelphia against the Falcons had 35 passes to 25 rushes. Obviously, we're on the field as much as we'd like to because we had some 3-and-outs, especially in the first half. But for this game, with Tampa Bay having a weak secondary, I think the case is going to be less is more. You would assume with all those injuries to the secondary, you want to commit to passing it. You want to just 30, 40 passing attempts. But I think less is more with Nick Foles. Set up the run, and then from that, you can get the play-action pass where Nick Foles really does start to thrive. And I think, give Nick Foles 25 passes. Shave up, have him 25 passes, have 35 rushes. I think that is going to be the key, because when you make those 25 passes more play-action oriented because the run's established, I think you're going to cause the Bucs a lot of trouble. Go to number 3 is who's going to step up at wide receiver. It's pretty clear that Nelson Aguilar is going to be like Jarvis Landry 2.0. He had like 9 catches for 5 yards last week against Atlanta, and that's fine. They clearly have worked him a little bit outside, but still he's going to be primarily the slot wide receiver. So is it going to be Mike Wallace? Is it going to be Shelton Gibson? Eagles were looking at like first-round bust Corey Coleman and Brashad Perriman. We ended up going back with Kamar Aiken, which was a little, not motivating, not exciting, but we need to see someone else step up, because it looks like Alshon Jeffrey's probably still going to miss 2 weeks. Maybe again, we might get him next week. I think he's supposed to start working out and practicing stuff this week, but I'm going to say probably week 4, week 5 for Alshon. Go to number 2 is Zach Ertz needs a bounce-back game. There's good linebackers on the Bucs, Quan Alexander, Levante David, and last week Zach Ertz 5 catches, 48 yards, but he had 2 drops. I honestly can't remember the last time Zach Ertz had a drop, so he definitely needs another bounce-back game to get his confidence back. But I don't think this is going to be the matchup weekly-wise, because, like I said, they have really good linebackers that, we're going to be able to accentuate our strength at tight end with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. I think it's more so it's going to be our wide receivers making plays on the perimeter and across the middle of the field. But, Zach Ertz can have Zach Ertz is matchup-proof at times. He is such a good route runner. And on his day, Quan Alexander, Levante David, as good as they are, couldn't cover Zach Ertz. But we definitely want to see a bounce-back week from him. And then at number 1, the biggest important factor of it all is that if we can win this game, we are 2-0 without Carson Wentz. We are 2-0 without the future of the franchise. We are 2-0 with our backup. While we see teams that are full strength struggle, Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, Patriots barely beat the Texans. They beat the Texans by 7 points. These really, really big teams have kind of been underwhelming. I mean, the 49ers were hanging with the Vikings for most of that game. The Rams looked like dog shit for like 2/3 of that game against the Raiders, where they should have dominated. So the fact that no team that's really, really hyped up looked outstanding, and Philadelphia is still maintaining pace with these guys that are winning games, finding ways to win, while we're absolutely injury riddled, more so than any other team. 2-0 without Carson Wentz is the ultimate biggest talking point from this game if we can get the job done. My prediction for this game is 27-13 for the Eagles. Game ball on offense is going to Nelson Aguilar. Game ball on defense is going to Jordan Hicks. It's going to be a good one, man. I'm not completely going to write off the Bucs, even though if they have those injuries, those are massive losses. No one gave the Bucs a chance against the Saints, and look what they did. They dropped 48 points against them. I don't know if the Saints are pretenders. I don't know if their defense was just having an off day, or their defense has reverted to their defense from 2 years ago. But, I mean, the Bucs have shown. And if you give them a chance, they could end up embarrassing you. So we got to make sure we're prepared. And Nick Foles, use that big dick energy, bro. Big dick energy. Thank you guys for watching the preview. Let me know what you guys think about this game. Give me your predictions in the comment section below. If it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.